Lines open at 1-850-104-106. Down to the rebel city comes Gerry Adams, and he joins us in studio. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Neil. Imagine my.
I saw you arrived in last night.
Yeah, we had a meeting. We're doing 46 meetings across the island. It's a big consultation process.
For what?
To plan the next 10 years for the party. We did it in 2007. Set ourselves a 2-election cycle. Set ourselves programmes of work objectives. We're now reviewing all of that and looking forward to 2026. And it's about democratising within the party our whole strategic formulation in the time ahead.
Yeah, you never had so many in Dáil Éireann over the past few months. There wasn't a whole lot of work done. Did you find it very frustrating since we eventually got a government together?
Yeah, it was. There was almost an air of bizarre unreality for the first lot of weeks. It isn't together yet. You know, the committees haven't met. The committees haven't been.
There's
put
no
together.
legislation passed or anything.
Yeah, well, we have put forward legislation which the government and Fianna Fáil have joined together and putting back, whether it was in rent certainty, whether it was ending 0-hour contracts, dealing with the homelessness issue. We also brought forward the proposition for an Oireachtas Health Committee, and we're part of the Housing and Homelessness Crisis Committee, but the government hasn't got into its stride, and it is quite frustrating in there. If you put a proposition to the government, it almost refers it back, and some people may enjoy the prospect of Fine Gael being in power by virtue of Fianna Fáil's indulgence, but it is very frustrating trying to get work done.
Yeah, but it was the only way we could get a government across the line, wasn't it? In fairness to Fianna Fáil, I mean, they swallowed the bitter pill and agreed to, even though it would appear that Fine Gael really aren't in power, because they got all of these independents and all of Fianna Fáil to please, don't they? And they even have to please Sinn Fein.
Well, they don't have to please us. We did actually, and I'm really pleased about this, with this bizarre situation where children who are in domiciliary care, that is a child who has an illness or an ailment or a disability which is deemed to be, more severe than a child normally would have, weren't being given automatically medical cards. So we put forward a motion the other day, and the government surrendered the ground, and we got Fianna Fáil on board and everybody else, and I think that's brilliant for the 11,000 families who have a child in that situation, children with Down syndromes, other children. So there are ways of working it to the advantage of the people that you represent. But, this is a coalition in anything else but name. And, it's the culturism of Fianna Fáil, which some people admire, and fair play, I wouldn't be begrudging about that. But it's for what purpose? For what end? What we need is fairness, what we need is decency. That's what I get when I travel about the place, and here in Cork, like everybody else in the island, the vast majority of people are very good, very decent people. They want everybody to be treated properly.
Why then is Fianna Fáil and indeed Micheál Martin flying in all of these various opinion polls, or do you take those with a grain of salt?
Well, I've been consistent in opinion polling and about opinion polls, because normally what some politicians do is to favour the ones which favour them and rubbish the ones which don't. Fianna Fáil to a certain degree has reinvented itself. It has stolen our Republican clothes.
Have they stolen your thunder, I wonder?
No, I don't think they've stolen our thunder, because we're about the business, as I've just said, of strategising and moving forward and building across the entire island. Like a very good issue, and just to try and elaborate on this, Micheál Martin rubbished my call for a reunification referendum as outlined in the Good Friday Agreement as part of this Brexit negotiation. Then, 2 weeks later, he embraces it. Now, some people will say that's opportunism. I say that's good, because that's moving the political situation forward in a certain direction. The Taoiseach did the same, and that's good. Now, so you can get into a position of saying it's bad, they're stealing your thunder, or you can look at it a bit more philosophically and say, well, we're changing the political atmosphere. We're bringing these people to positions which they didn't have previously.
Is this the best opportunity we're ever going to get for the reunification of this island?
No, but it is a very good opportunity.
When could there be a better time? I mean, the UK is all split. and you've got Scotland and Wales and the England itself and Northern Ireland. You've got Scotland and Northern Ireland who are outside of the fold now. How could there be ever a better time than to call for a referendum? And if a referendum was called, let's say, would it be both sides of the border? How would it work?
Well, it would be both sides of the border. That's what the Good Friday Agreement says. We have to be, in the one case, prudent, because we have to protect our economy. We have to protect and make sure that there is minimal disruption across the whole island. And I very much welcome that the Taoiseachers come on board on a forum or a national conversation. We have to have an all-island view of this. We also have to protect the Good Friday Agreement and the peace process, and it's welcome that the Taoiseach is in that position as well. Now, having said that, then you're right. We have a very good opportunity, if we get that right, of persuading people that new relationships in the island are better than one part of the island being dragged out of the European Union at the behest, essentially, of England, while the other part stays in with all of the difficulties that will cause.
So if there was an all-island referendum, and it would have to be that way, don't you think that the vast majority of people in the Republic would vote for the 6 counties to come back? So it would be almost a racing certainty.
Not necessarily. And you see, it isn't just a matter of 6 and 26 joining. I mean, do you think this is a great state? Do you think, in terms of our hospital services, our homelessness?
I don't think it's great, but there is nowhere else in the world that I would prefer to live.
And nor me. I'm not down the country. I think we're a great country. I think we're wonderful people, such resilient, resourceful, cheerful people. No,
so what's your point?
My point is, we need to imagine a new Ireland, and particularly our leaders here need to think outside of their historical tendencies, need to imagine an Ireland beyond partition, and they haven't got into the headspace to do that yet. So can we get an all-Ireland public health service? Yes, we can. Can we get our agricultural to work across the end?
Would
Yes,
they cost
we can.
us a fortune, the North?
No.
I mean, the British economy pumps money in there, doesn't it?
Well, all of that's debatable, and we'll be bringing forward on a number of economic reports have been done.
But it's not self-sufficient. It can't support itself, Northern Ireland.
No, the North couldn't, and it's not an official statement.
No, I'm not criticising, because I want to see a 32-county Ireland. I'm just asking you, would it cost us money?
No. A report done by a number of American academics have shown that in the first 10 years of independence, we would bring in, by cutting out duplication and just to thrust forward, we would bring in, I think it's 8.7 billion additional. Now, if you look at it, we're a small landmass, we're a very, very small population. Together working against that, divided or facing away from each other doesn't work. There's some very good examples, like the all-island cardiac unit set up for children just recently is very, very good. The cancer treatment. We could
iron all those things out, I'm sure. But the bigger picture might well be that we could go back to the times of the Troubles, because we would be bringing loyalists and unionists screaming and kicking into the 26 counties, and that could lead to more paramilitary activity.
Well,
would it not?
Well, that's the challenge, you see, and we don't want to do to unionists what was done to those of us who live in the North, and that's why we need to get our act in order, and that's why we need to look at who is examining new relationships now. Working class people, the business sector, academics, the agricultural sector are all, and I spend every Monday at Stormont. They're all concerned. Some people are fearful about the consequences, the negative consequences of them being dragged out of the European Union. And while they mightn't be United Irelanders, they certainly are looking at an arrangement on the island of Ireland which suits their own self-interest, which is entirely...
Yeah, but I'm not necessarily talking about Stormont. I'm more talking about paramilitary activity. I mean, all of the different organisations that were around in the times of the Troubles, like, they haven't gone away.
Well, we have huge outreach. I mean, I talk regularly to people who would have been involved with either the Ulster Volunteer Force or the Ulster Defence Association. We have.
What about the IRA?
Well, the IRA is gone.
Yeah, but the people aren't gone.
I know, but
Do you have talked to former individuals who would have been involved in paramilitary?
Well, many people who were involved in the IRA are involved in Sinn Fein and are very useful.
Yeah, but those outside of the political scope, if you like. Do you talk to the people who lay down their arms, or even those who haven't laid down their arms?
Well, those who continue to pursue a very futile and totally unpopular campaign won't talk to us.
Yeah.
And we're quite prepared to talk to them. I've written to them any number of times in the past. We've challenged them publicly. Declan Kearney, who's our National Party chairperson, has been given a very specific role to reach out to so-called dissident Republicans and to try and persuade them.
But you'd know them. You should be able to pick up the phone and say, look, what are your thoughts? Where are you at with this? Will you meet me about it?
Well, I'm just said that, they won't meet with us. They won't talk to us. They've set themselves on a certain course, but we're not giving up on that because, part of the challenge in all of this is to nurture and nourish the peace process. It can't be taken for granted. Now, having said all of that, there is no danger, in my opinion, while not minimising that these people can carry out actions, there is no danger to the peace process. The vast majority of people follow Sinn Féin's lead and are totally and absolutely supportive of the peace process.
It's kind of interesting when you look at Sinn Féin, because there are kind of two Sinn Féins, aren't there? There's the Sinn Féin in the 6 counties in the north, and then there's the Sinn Féin in the 26 counties. And you have this probably unenviable task of walking the tightrope between both. But you seem to be kind of, up until now anyway, an acceptable leader. Is the fact that you've stayed so long, the fact that northern Sinn Féiners would never accept Mary Lou, would never accept Pierce Doherty, they'd never accept a southerner as being head of Sinn Féin in the north, and that's the reason why you've kind of hung on so long. I mean, Fidel Castro is gone, but you're still there.
Well, I don't consider myself to be hanging on. Secondly, we don't have two different Sinn Féins. We're a national organisation.
You do. You have a Sinn Féin Stormont and you have a Sinn Féin Dáil.
We're the only party which is organised across the island at such depth and with such...
Well, Fianna Fáil are actively campaigning in the north.
No, they're not.
They are.
Where?
All over the north.
Where?
You're going to ask me for geographical locations?
They're not. I would love them to. I would love Fine Gael to. I'd love Labour to.
I was in the Irish Independent last week. I read it in the Times the week before.
Independent?
Well, I have to believe some things that I read in the papers.
Well, anyway, I
wouldn't believe them if they're telling me it was Wednesday and it was Tuesday. But if they say that Fianna Fáil are actively campaigning in the north, is it a lie?
Yes, they're not. I think they may have one common in Crossmaglen. It would be great if they were organised across the north, and I would welcome that very much, and all of the other political parties. But coming back to your
leadership on both sides of the border.
First of all, we're a collective leadership. Right. And I'm not going to be in the leadership position forever, that's for sure.
What are you now, 68
in October.
Right. Okay.
So, and whoever our party elects, our party will accept and support. And we're not a partitionist party. We're a party which is genuinely bedded
I
on an all-island approach.
I understand that, but have you stayed so long because there's nobody else around that's acceptable to northern?
Because we're a party in transition. And you look at the course that we have come. Like 20 years ago, we had no TDs, with no MPs, with no MEPs. We had something like 80,000 votes. Now we have 500,000 votes. We have... 30 Oireachtas members, with 28 people up at Stormont, with 5 MPs, with 4 MEPs, with hundreds of councillors. So we're a party which is building. It's how we use that political strength to bring about decency and fairness in politics, to bring about a fair recovery, to make sure that we tackle poverty, and to bring in equality, and ultimately to bring about Irish unity. And we have to work with other parties.
Is that your goal then, that you're going to stay until then?
No, not necessarily. I made the point in an interview yesterday. I'm going to open Pat Buckley's office up in Middleton. If the party wanted me to clean his office out every Friday, and that was my job, I would feel that was a great privilege. I'll serve the party in whatever capacity.
So you didn't surrender to the pressure to go when everybody was claiming that you should go, and your performance in the general election was open to criticism as well.
Well, we had an Ardèche there just 2 months ago, and I was elected. So that's the test of all of this. There'll be another Ardèche. If I go forward, I will or won't be elected. People have been happy enough to elect me to the job, and I have to stress, I'm part of a collective leadership. I'm just one of maybe 60 people who represent our party nationally.
You got to wonder, though, as to where you will be in another 5 or 10 years' time. I mean, you're, at 67, nearly 68. Do you draw the old age pension?
Yeah, I get a small state pension, yeah. Yeah. And I get a free bus pass.
I was going to ask you that as well.
Well, I haven't got a free bus pass here in this state, but I just...
Why don't you have a bus pass down here?
Because I haven't had the chance to apply for it.
And would you think you would?
Oh, of course I would.
You'd go for the bus pass?
Yeah, because I catch the bus about Dublin. It's a quick way to get about.
Right. Okay.
I use the bike and I use the bus.
Okay. And you refer to quite a lot of that in your little book of tweets, don't you?
Yeah, it's a bit of crack.
Your lifestyle, you're out and about, the things that you do. Mind you, the one worry I'd have with that is why would we have a leader of a party in the Dáil who doesn't know the difference between a toothbrush and a pen?
Well, I might know that difference, but I know the difference between what's good and what's bad for people. There's some of them up there don't know the crisis that people are living through.
Life crisis. You bring that point up. One person who has worked very hard in the last few weeks is Simon Coveney on homelessness and building houses. I mean, you got to give some credit in that.
Yeah, and I did. I said in the Dáil that I thought he was making a genuine effort at this, and we welcomed those parts of his plan which we thought were positive, but its results are going to count. And I've done some limited work with Simon. I've found him very open and so on. But, we have this crisis which we brought and others brought to the attention of the government over the last 6 years. The government ignored us.
But not now. I mean, he's doing stuff. He's coming up with numbers. He's coming up with a plan.
Fair enough. And the test of that will be results, because our criticism of what they're doing is that it's too reliant upon developers and the market. They're not putting enough money into social housing, and the Oireachtas Committee, which involves members of Fine Gael as well, actually proposed that we have to build 10,000 social houses over the next 5 years. They're not going to build that. They're not going to build that amount. And
but there'll be a combination of building and buying.
Well, again, let's see how it develops. If you were stuck in a hotel room, if you were sleeping on somebody else's sofa, if you were on the streets, if you're in mortgage distress, I mean, the government in Fianna Fáil colluded to prevent a rent certainty bill going through, which we put to them. It doesn't make sense at all. The government has refused to face up to the banks in terms of the way they have people in mortgage distress.
It's difficult then for you. It's frustrating then in opposition, isn't it? Where you just have to kind of sit there.
No, well, I made the point earlier on in terms of medical cards. You can, if you
make
go at it properly, make a difference. Of course, I wouldn't be in Leinster House without the mandate I'm given, but I wouldn't be in there if I didn't think it was making a difference.
Well, you're not there now because you're all gone on 9 or 10 weeks holidays. Is it a ridiculous length of time to be off? It's such a critical time when there's the chance that the UK could drag us back into recession.
I'm not on holidays. I'll be about. I mean, I'll take my 3 weeks at the end of August, but I'll be about and.
But you'll be doing Sinn Fein business, though. You won't be doing Dáil business, will you?
No, that's fair enough. That's fair comment. We will put in PQs and so on. We just did a meeting about this yesterday. No, that's fair comment. There is a lot of scepticism about the length of time this break's going to take. But they're also renovating the Dáil, and they can't do that, apparently. They can't get the builders in unless they get us out. Now, we actually proposed that we should go somewhere else.
Yes.
We should go to the Mansion House, or we should go to some other appropriate building. So we're not for these big long breaks, but in fairness, there is at least some logical reason for it.
Because we got to pay when you guys go on 9 weeks holiday, something in the region of 3 million. Although I don't believe you take full salary, though, do you?
No, we don't.
You take a reduced salary, I think, is it?
Yeah.
Do you give it to the party, or?
No, we give. There's a legal limit to what you can give to the party. It might be 5,000 or so, which we do, and which I do anyway. And then we put the rest into constituency service.
So, do you mind me asking? What would your annual salary be then? What would you take per annum? What would you live on?
It fluctuates up slightly, but mine actually goes into my wife's bank account. So I lost.
You don't control the purse strings.
No, I don't. No, I get my pocket money.
How much does she give you? I mean, how do you actually access cash then? Is it an ATM card?
Yes, you're asking me lots of personal questions.
No, I'm just curious as to how
I'm always on the top.
You what?
I'm always on the top.
You're always overdrawn.
Yeah.
And what will you do for holidays then? You say you'll take 3 weeks. Will you go anywhere?
Our family have a house in Donegal. I go there. It's a great place, mighty place.
And what you do? Switch off, walk, read?
Walk, cook. walk the dog, play with grandchildren, drink red wine, sing.
Do you like to cook? I mean, is that something you do regularly?
Cooking, yeah.
You good at it?
In fact, I cook during the holidays. I do all the cooking during the holidays.
Go on, give me an idea what you could rattle together now.
Anything.
Go on, tell me what. I mean, what's next on the agenda?
Well, I'll be home. I'll be home on Sunday, and I'll make chicken and potatoes and cabbage and carrots, and I'll have apple cake and ice cream.
So that would be a real traditional Irish grub, then, is it?
Yeah, but no, I like Italian. You know, and I bake. I find it very therapeutic. I bake and have a little.
So you tweet, you cook, you bake, you drink red wine. Yeah. You like to walk. You like to read,
and I like to garden.
You're a gardener.
Yeah, well, I'm not a very good gardener. I'm a sort of an inconsistent gardener, but I do like to garden, yeah.
And you like to tweet?
Yeah.
Numerous tweets?
Yeah, it's a bit of fun.
And the little book, that's for charity, right?
No, it's not. No, I'm the charitable organisation. But it wasn't.
I think there was a charitable contribution, though, I believe. Yeah.
No, I mean, I do.
Again, I read that in the newspapers.
Yeah, well, some of my early books, I actually, the money went to prisoners' dependents funds. At that time when there were a lot of Republican prisoners. I'm actually, and I'm just have to read this out, Neil, I'm in the Liam Russell
You're in Liam Russell's bookshop on
Oliver Plunkett Street from 12, and I'm signing copies of that book. That's the first signing. No, that's the second signing I've done. I actually thought, in the middle of all the seriousness, that it might have been a bit trivial to be off signing tweet books, but now that I'm in Cork.
Do you have particular favourite tweets along the lines of, I didn't go for a snooze, instead I cleared up the mess in the kitchen, fed the dogs, ate 4 mince pies, going for a snooze now because I'm worth it? I like that one.
Yeah, you have to say you said it better than I would.
But do you have particular favourites? Would the one about the reference to Django Unchained be up there, I wonder?
No, that one caused too much controversy.
What was that about? Was that a rush of blood to the head, or did you not see the offensiveness of the N-word?
It was the day that was in it. It was during the elections in the North. I had spent the entire day, for the first time in about 15 years, in my home place of Ballymurphy. And in every street I was in, people had been killed. Friends, neighbours. I was at the place where my old home was. It was demolished as a consequence of the British Army running big Saracen armoured cars into it consistently. The last home my mother was in. So I was going through that sort of reliving some of the emotions. Friends of mine, my brother-in-law who was killed by the paratroop regiment, others in my family. So I then went to babysit, and I don't have Netflix, and I put on Netflix and I watched this movie, and then I had this stupid rush of blood to the head. Now,
oh, you would call it a stupid rush of blood?
Oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, you didn't try and defend it at the time.
Well, I didn't try to defend the use of the N-word, but what I did, and I stand over this, my comparisons between the plight of African Americans and the Irish, I stand over.
Oh, I understand the philosophy was well meant. I understand that, but it was the language. I just kind of wondered, were you living in a parallel universe that you can't say the N-word and it's an offensive thing to use? Well, you know that now.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And, we all make mistakes. And
do you apologise at the time?
I did, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting listening to you describe there quite emotionally the family and, the people that died, the people that were killed during the Troubles and, the atrocities of the people, and that you never picked up a gun.
Well, that's the way it was, and that's the way I
but you asked
came at all of this.
Yeah. You ask people to believe that sincerely, do you?
No, but people will believe that or not. I've made it clear. I don't mind whether people believe that or not.
Yeah. You just didn't go that far.
I mean, people will make their own opinion on all of this. What is really important, Neil, is this.
Yeah.
It's over.
It's over, for sure it's over.
The fact that I could walk through Ballymurphy, even though it was an emotive experience.
You couldn't at the time?
No, I couldn't. Sure, the place was a military camp. The local school was taken over by the British Army. The local GA club was taken over by the British Army. The local church hall was taken over by the British Army. I mean, the very fact that my family home ended up being demolished, the fact that I couldn't walk 10 feet of myself in that housing estate without some memory of some incident, of women being beaten, of men being beaten, of CR gas, of CS gas, of plastic bullets, of lead bullets. And where we lived was just opposite the military base, so it was nearly at the centre of all that was happening. So the important thing is that it's finito, it's Cricknaha, it's finished.
Yeah. Was there a chance that it could come back though? And we could, like, I know the French and the Italians don't have border controls, and that's fine. But is there a chance that we could have a border back again, where we would have checkpoints and army and military? And
yeah, well, I don't know how far it would go. And certainly the fact that this British government is very, very right-wing and has voted against some aspects of the Good Friday Agreement and has no attachment to the Good Friday Agreement puts our own government really behind the eight ball to put on the jersey and to make sure, as co-guarantors of the Good Friday Agreement, that we don't have a return to border patrols, that we don't have, you know, the type of infrastructure and barriers and roadblocks like Checkpoint Charlie apparatus. So, you know, the first starting point has to be to uphold the integrity of the vote in the north.
Yeah, but Enda Kenny described it like the fall of the Berlin Wall, didn't he? And that he made comparisons between East Berlin coming back to the West. Now, I mean, I don't know whether this will happen sooner rather than later. They're now suggesting not anytime soon. Are you going along with that?
Yeah, it'll take 2 years at least to negotiate out, and then it will take, they reckon, a year or 2 years to negotiate a new relationship. But what we have to do is to accept, you know, I listened to Micheál Martin and I listened to the Taoiseach upholding the right of the people in Scotland to remain. The people of the North voted to remain. So the government has to uphold the integrity of that vote. And then, going back to the earlier part of our interview, has to minimise the negative consequences of all of this by upholding the integrity of the vote, but also then by exploring with everyone, can we have new relationships in this island? Okay,
the final question then. Why can't we have a Brexit to see if we want to stay? Should we not have a referendum like the British did?
Well, possibly, but I mean, I don't think there's any real issue.
Appetite?
Well, I mean, I'm very critical of the European Union, don't get me wrong. I mean, the way they treated, with a compliant Fianna Fáil government, the people of this state, the way they treated the people in Greece, the
austerity.
Well, yes, the awful disaster of, you know, thousands of people dying from drowning in the Mediterranean. You know, all of those issues. The democratic deficit, so we need a reformed social.
But
European
the upside
Union.
to that is Ireland are giving those Syrian refugees perfectly new, brand new, fully furnished homes. They're actually giving them homes ahead of Irish people. I mean, where's the sense in that? It's not as if we have ignored refugees and families who have fled trouble. We have embraced them and taken them in here.
Well,
in actual fact, ahead of our own.
Well, you said this was the last question, but I will take issue with you on that issue. But here's the problem. We have a two-tier European Union. And whether it's in the awfulness of the plight of those refugees, or whether it's the fact that this state, the citizens, you and everybody else, has been saddled, your great-grandchildren will still be paying a debt. You know, the upsurge, the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of water charges, you know, that the government has put that up the road. You know, Sinn Féin's very, very clear. We will scrap water charges. We will scrap Irish water. All the other issues of austerity which are still hanging out there need to be faced up to. The European Union isn't doing it, so our government needs to cease being Europe's representatives in Ireland, and we need to be Ireland's representatives in Europe.
Maybe we're in a stronger position then in the European Union now with the British gone. I don't know.
Well, we're certainly in a stronger position if the government...
Not if they drag us into recession.
No, if the government asserts itself. The government went cap in hand or tugged the forelock too many times, and I'm not talking about being dogmatic or domineering. I'm just talking about standing up for Irish national interest, and whether that's dealing with the consequences of Brexit, whether it's dealing with the challenges of Irish unity, or whether it's dealing with homelessness or poverty or ending water charges. Sinn Féin's in the business of trying to show leadership.
Okay, I'll let you get on with that. Thanks for coming in, Gerry. Gerry Adams at 10:30 today in Middleton at Pat Buckley's constituency office, and at midday at Liam Rochelle's for a signing of his My Little Book of Tweets. I leave you with one of those tweets if I can find it. I headlined a few of them, and I particularly like the one where you said it had to do with a Cadbury's cream egg, I believe, didn't it? Oh yeah, here it is. Dreamt I was eating cream eggs. Woke up this morning, pillow and beard covered in chocolate, and cream thingamabob. Did you get it out eventually?
Yeah, eventually. I had to use a fine comb.
You cleaned up well. Have a good day today.
Sure, Margaret,
Gerry
thank
Adams, take care. Gerry Adams in studio. Our lines are open at 1850 104 106. You can text 086 8104 106, and you can pick up a copy of my little book of tweets from the man himself at midday at Liam Russell's on Oliver Plunkett Street.
Call the Neil Prendeville Show now. 1850 104 106.
With Ireland's best-selling crossover, the Nissan Qashqai. You'll never look back.
Red FM.